Hello and welcome back to ABG Investor Days. My name is Adrian Gilani. I'm an equity research analyst here at ABG within the cap goods sector. Our next presentation will be with Elanders, and I'm joined today by CEO of Elanders, Magnus Nilsson, who will give a 20-minute presentation, and we will follow that up with a short Q&A session. So Magnus, I will leave it up to you.
Thank you very much. Welcome everyone. Can you take the next slide, please? If we look at how Elanders looks today, including our latest acquisition, Diagon Logistics, you can see that Europe is still the main area for us with 79 locations, around 5,000 employees. Asia is 18 locations, 1,500 employees. And now after the acquisition of Diagon, we then have 13 locations in Americas and around 1,000 employees. And we have a net sales of around 1.1 billion euros. Next slide, please. If we then look at our business areas for the first 9 months and start to look at supply chain solutions, we could see in the third quarter that the lack of semiconductors created lots of disturbances from our customers in the production, and especially then in July and August. September, we could see a recovery. And if we look at the numbers, we are still well ahead of last year. And despite the negative effect of the semiconductors, we could anyway show an organic growth of 9% in the first 9 months. We expect that the negative effects from the lack of semiconductors will continue in Q4, but with much less negative impact. And then if we go to next slide, then if we look at print and packaging solutions, we could see the same effect, especially because we still print lots of manuals. So the shortage of semiconductors was also hitting their result in the third quarter. But as you can see in the numbers, we are really well ahead of last year in the print and packaging area. And in the fourth quarter, we also expect some continuous effect of semiconductors, but to a less extent. And it will also be partly compensated because of we expect very strong demand in the area we call online print. So then if we go to the next slide, I can take the next. I want to talk about the market opportunities we can see, and I start with a slide to show how strong growth Elanders has managed during the last 11 years. And we have done lots of acquisitions, of course, during these years. It's a mix of acquisitions and organic growth. But if you look at the schedule to the right, you can see the more important acquisitions, like 2014 with the supply chain management company Mentor Media with a base in Asia. We doubled our size as a group and we entered this supply chain management area. And then we made a huge acquisition 2016 of LGI with headquarters in Germany and with a huge footprint in Europe. And then we also doubled our size. And after that, we are more focused on organic growth, but we have started getting up some speed now in acquisitions again. And if we look at end of 2020 and 2021, we have made 3 important acquisitions, smaller ones, but important ones in the area we call Lifecycle Management, where we can create much more value for our customers. And that's the 3 companies, Azalea, Reuse It, and Elanders. And I will come back to the acquisitions a bit later on. We also acquired a printing company, Schätzl, in Germany, that is focusing 100% on online print. And then, of course, we made the big acquisition of Diagon Logistics with base in US and also in supply chain management. So now with the combination of Mentor Media, LGI, and Diagon Logistics, we can really offer global solutions for our customers. If we then go to the next slide. And how does it look now when we include Diagon Logistics in our numbers? So if we start looking at the left, we can see now that fashion and lifestyle is now Elanders' biggest customer segment with 30%. Electronics, the second biggest one with 27%. And then automotive is now down to 18%. industrial 12%, we have healthcare, life science 4%, and other, where we have a big share of online print, is 9%. And if you then look at the schedule to the right, you can see how we define our customers, and also this is we also use this when we focus on acquisitions. And if we look at fashion lifestyle, we can see that there's a high growth opportunity. Cyclicality is rather low. If we then also look at electronics, also strong growth opportunities, not so cyclical either. But if it comes to automotive industrial, we can see it's pretty hard to grow. It's more medium growth, and of course they're very sensitive for up and downs in the economy. And healthcare and life science, even if it's a small area, we can see there's high growth opportunities, and it's also low when it comes to cyclicality. And if we look at other, it's also the same like healthcare and life science. So now after the acquisition of Bergen, the latest acquisitions in Lifecycle Management, we can now state that around 65% of our turnover is now non-cyclical. If you just compare some years ago, it was the opposite way around when we were really heavy in automotive industrial. So this is part of our strategy to create a more strong foundation. If we go to the next slide. So in which areas can we see the major growth opportunities? If I start from the left, of course, like everyone else, we can see there's a huge growth potential when it comes to e-commerce. I think it was really speeding up during the COVID year 2020, but it has continued now 2021. And if you look at the slide, still it's only 20% of trade going via e-commerce globally, and 80% is going more traditional ways like retail. And for us, when it comes to e-commerce, it's especially in the fashion lifestyle and electronics area where we see the growth opportunities. And then we have the area Lifecycle Management, where we do lots of service repair of our customers. And there we have this special area called Renew Tech, where we are buying used equipment, IT equipment, we refurbish it and clean out all the data, and then we sell the products again to the market. The whole idea here is to increase the amount of reused equipment before it goes to recycling. And as you can see, it's and after an investigation in Sweden, we could only find that at least 13% are reused. Lots goes to recycling too early in the life cycle of the products. And then if you look at outsourcing in logistics is there are still opportunities, and the trend continues with increased outsourcing. And if we then look at print, we can also see there's growth opportunities driven by the increased e-commerce, and that is the area we call online print. And online print is today only 20% of the whole print market and has a yearly growth of 10%. If we then go to the next slide and look more in detail, how we can see the growth in e-commerce and the contract logistics industry. So if you look at to the left on e-commerce market is growing with almost 12% per year. Looks in North America, Europe is around 10%. But also the interesting thing is when e-commerce grows, if we have a customer that is a retail customer that's changed to e-commerce, it could normally for us as a logistics supplier means that our sales will increase with 3 to 10 times, because we will do the job that the consumer normally has done before. You know, we need to pick the product, we need to pack it, we need to send it, we need to take the handling returns and things like that. So every time one of our customer grows in e-commerce compared to retail, it could be for us the sales that are 3 to 10 times higher. And then of course the contract logistics area is growing by itself in almost all customer areas with around 4%. So if we go to next slide, and you can jump to the next one, I want to use this moment to go through a bit more about the latest acquisitions, and I start with the biggest one, that is Diagon Logistics. It's a company really specialized on fashion and lifestyle, and they specialize on small and medium-sized luxury brands. So it works directly with the brand owners. And the estimated sales for them in 2021 is around $102 million compared to 82 the year before. And they are doing EBITA margins of around 10 to 12%. A very impressive thing is that their biggest customer is only 4%. So this $100 million are divided on around 450 customers. So they have a really good way to handle, lots of customers in the same site, and they can handle sometimes 150 to 200 customers in one facility. And the reason they can do that is that they have developed their own sophisticated warehouse management systems that can handle lots of different customers on the same site. They can connect very easily to all existing e-commerce platforms, ERP systems, and they can normally onboard a new customer in just 2 to 4 weeks. And that is still offering them also the whole omni-channel solution. So they can handle both their volumes for e-commerce and retail and outlets and so on. And they cover the whole North America with 4 sites. There are 2 sites, 3 sites on the east side, 1 site on the west side. There are 1 site in Canada to cover Canada, and also a small site in Netherlands to help their customers to grow into Europe, and they use a big partner in Asia. And as I mentioned before, we can see there's big potential for us to grow in fashion lifestyle, and we could see the first 9 months in Europe that we could grow our sales when it's connected to fashion lifestyle with 30%, and then mainly driven by the e-commerce volumes. If we then go to the next slide, as you know, we normally are not acquiring printing companies, but when we find really nice ones, we are doing it. And I think this German printing company, Schätzl, is a really interesting company. They focus 100% on online print. So they serve, big players who sell print via internet, everything from bigger ones also to smaller ones. It could be, photo books or hardcover books, catalogs or whatever. And they have shown a yearly growth around 25% per year the last 3 years. And they have a sales of 15 million euros and are doing EBITDA margins around 10%. And online print, as I mentioned before, is one of the few areas where you can see a growth in the market with around 10%. And when we combine Schätzl with our existing capacity in Europe, we will be one of the number 1 players when it comes to this area. If we then go to next slide. This is the acquisition of the small company Reuse IT, and this company is working in the lifecycle management area and then specialized in what we call Renew Tech. They have sales around 70 million crowns and do EBITDA margins around 10%. So the service includes, purchase. They buy servers, computers, mobile phones, iPads, and things like that from companies or banks or whatever. They inspect it, they buy the goods, inspect, they do testing, disk wiping, they do refurbishment, and then you do quality grading, and then they sell these assets sometimes directly to other companies, or it could be schools or hospitals, whatever. But they also have their own site where they're selling directly to consumers, which we can see a strong growth today, that people really want to contribute to the environment and buy secondhand products. And the whole idea is to, instead of, that the computer or mobile phone only lives for 3 years and then go to recycling, the whole idea is to at least let the equipment live at least for 6 years before you go to recycling. So reuse is a very important part of the circular economy going forward. If we then take the next slide, this is the Dutch company Egendhusen that is also in the lifecycle management area. It's a company, it's the market leader in Netherlands. been existing for more than 100 years. They have a yearly sales around 10 million euros and are doing EBITDA margins around 10 to 12%. So they are very specialized in transporting and install high-value technical equipment, like it could be, for hospitals, X-ray equipment, it could be digital printing machines, office printers. So they take care of the whole flow. They receive the goods from the company who is producing it. They take it to the hospital, for example. They unload it, they transport it into the hospital, they do the installation, they do a first setup, and they also work with what we call then renew techs. They also do take-backs of the old equipment, which they take back to the facility and refurbish, and then later on, these products will go out on the second-hand market. So this is very strategic for us to grow in this area, and it also will make our footprint much stronger in Netherlands as well. If we then go to the next slide, okay, status 2021 and going forward. I think despite all the challenges for the moment with the semiconductor shortage, increased material cost and high freight cost, we can see that we have a really strong underlying demand from both existing and new customers. We are receiving lots of RFQs for new projects. And we also think that lots of our customers, especially in automotive, that they will increase their capacity as soon as they can get in more components because they have big backlogs. Sometimes we talk about 12 or 24 months. And as I said before, the growing e-commerce market is very important for us, and we really need to find ways to capture this growth both organically and with the help of acquisitions. So if we also during this year open up a new site in North Germany for e-commerce. It's already full, and we're looking for other opportunities now to use other existing facilities or to set up new ones. There's a big potential for us. And if we then look in total for 2021, we have acquired companies with a total yearly sales around 1.2 billion crowns and with an average EBITDA of around 10%. And this is also very important for us when we make acquisitions, is that they will help us over time to improve our margins for the whole group. And they will also help us to create more organic growth between our different companies and make us less sensitive to swings in the global economy. When it comes to the shortage of semiconductors and the higher freight rates, we estimate that the pressure will ease a bit when it comes to semiconductors step by step in 2022. So we expect much lower negative effects. We think that the higher freight rates will stay for a while, but we also find ways now to get around it, to get better paid for freight. And we are actually also selling lots of freights by ourselves, and that is actually giving us some upside as well. So yeah, that was everything from me, and I can open up for questions.
Okay, thank you, Magnus, for your presentation. I'll go right ahead with a few questions. So starting off, you've had some short-term issues with supply chain problems, but going forward, do you see these supply chain issues creating a higher demand as companies sort of look to outsource more logistics to supply chain experts such as yourselves?
Yeah, I think, the effect after COVID-19 and then after that, the whole problem with lack of components. I think that will stimulate companies to rethink a bit about that everything cannot be just in time. You cannot rely that you can get just-in-time deliveries from Asia, coming in a certain time, then come into your factory, you can produce your products. I think that some companies will start to source more, maybe local in Europe, which also benefits us because we are so big in Europe, but also that they will start to increase their warehouse capacity to build buffers for things when it happens. I think especially when it comes to semiconductors, I think there will be some buffering as soon as it's possible.
So if inventory practices change and, as you say, people start buffering up more on inventories, are you capable of sort of adapting your business to their new habits?
Yeah, I think all of it, when it comes to buffering more and increased warehousing, is a big upside for the whole logistics industry, including Elanders. So, and then on top of that, you have the increased e-commerce that also needs more warehouse space and more logistics activities. So I think it looks good if you're working in logistics going forward. Yeah.
Okay. This might be a bit of a difficult question, but you showed us an interesting chart saying that roughly 1/3 of global logistics was outsourced today. If we zoom out, say 3 to 5 years, do you have any sort of estimation as to how much of logistics can be outsourced in a few years?
I think it's a really hard question. It's also very it's a bit of a cultural question. You know, I think if you go to North America, there's already outsourcing is really big. If you go to Europe, somewhere in the middle, and in Asia, it's a mix of. So it's even different inside Europe. We can see that in Germany that they are very open for outsourcing. Scandinavia still is lots of insourcing. So it's hard to predict, but at the same time, also lots of our customers want to have the flexibility in manpower when things goes up and down, and that could also be that they want to outsource, you know, contract logistics services that they have done by themselves. So I cannot say the number, but I think it will increase step by step.
Sure. Also in Q3, you said that you experienced some sort of irregular demand patterns as customers sometimes canceled contracts just a week before delivery. So far in Q4, have you seen any improvements and more sort of normal demand patterns among your customers?
Yeah, we can see more normal patterns now. I think that they are start to prioritize. So if you take, you know, a car manufacturer, they have understood maybe that, okay, we need to prioritize, you know, model A and B, and then we down prioritize C and D. And that makes it a bit easier for us, even if we are serving all the models. So then we can have the right capacity for the right model. So we can see improvements, that we can also see that the companies now try to also to create a more longer horizon how they plan their production. They have realized now that it will stay for a while, the problem. So it also makes it easier for us.
Yeah. And also you began the presentation by showing us your geographical footprint, which is very wide already, but are there any sort of new geographies that you find exciting that you are thinking about perhaps expanding into?
Yeah, I think the next step for us is to try to find ways to grow in Southeast Asia. You know, we are very big in Singapore and in China, but we can see there's lots of opportunities in the future going more southeast. So that could be an interesting area for us. Okay. Either organically or via an acquisition.
Yeah. Could you elaborate a bit on what is particularly exciting about Southeast Asia?
You know, there was a trend before COVID that some companies start moving manufacturing out of China to countries like Vietnam and Thailand, for example, and it stopped for a while because of the COVID situation. But COVID has also shown that when China is working with zero tolerance and they just close down factories all the time when there's an outbreak, I think that will stimulate, you know, some of the contract manufacturers and other companies moving more south in Asia. So I think there will come lots of opportunities.
Yeah. Also, you've previously said that you want to grow your fashion and lifestyle customer segment. Now you showed us that it's with the pro forma numbers, it's 30% of sales, I believe it was. Are you happy with where it is now, or could this increase more as a share of total revenue?
I think it will increase more if the trend continues that the brand owners also go for their own e-commerce, which is an important driver for us. You know, they're of course selling via Amazon and so on, but they also realize they want to sell via their own e-commerce, and we can see there's lots of requests, and if that continues we could grow a lot. But it's also about management capacity. It takes lots of energy to open up a new site and to get it running. So, but I think fashion lifestyle will continue to grow, and hopefully we can also grow a bit more in electronics when it comes to aftermarket services, and then take good care of the automotive industrial volumes we have, and also grow some in healthcare.
Okay. And another area that you talk quite a lot about is the lifecycle management, where you've made a couple of acquisitions as well. Can you talk a bit about this type of business? Is this high margin business, or do you need large volumes to generate significant profit from this?
No, it's typical high margin business, even with low sales. And for us, it's really natural to do it because we store and have, the warehouse service for these electronics manufacturers. And then we can add the service that we also will deliver their products to their customers. We will install it, we will do take backs, and then we can also offer them support, how they will help to, reuse their products and things like that. So it's a really nice add-on for us to get more added value from our customers.
Okay. I think I have time for one more question before we have to wrap up. So you've made this large acquisition in Bergen as well as a couple smaller ones as well. Can you talk a bit about your acquisition headroom as it is right now after these acquisitions, and how willing you are to sort of keep going?
No, I think we still have a good headroom. Of course, our net debt EBITDA will go up for a while now with Bergen, but normally we have very strong cash flow and can, recover our balance sheet. And I think still we can do, from our own cash flow, do some, a lot of small and medium-sized, maybe acquire companies for, 20, 30, 40 million euros per year without any extra cash, just what we generate by ourselves. And I think if we go for big one again, I think we always could ask support from our owners as well to do some kind of rights issue or something like that. So we really like this tool to acquire companies to speed up our growth, but also to help us create organic growth.
Okay. So with that, I think I covered all of my questions. I'd like to thank you again for your presentation and for answering all of my questions. And I'll just leave it up to you if you have any final remarks before we wrap up.
No, I'm pleased with this. Thank you very much.
Yeah, thank you.
Thanks. Bye-bye.